However, Alex Anthopoulos thinks the Braves are going to map out 27 outs in a postseason game. Didier Fuentes is going to be a big part of it. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on into Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. Later in the show, I want to talk about the New York Yankees, where that team stands right now. We face them for 3 games starting tonight. We'll talk about the pitching matchups, us getting robbed of Chris Sale versus Max Fried, but us getting Chris Sale versus Gerrit Cole, and what to expect this weekend in the Bronx. But before we do that, we've accepted and moved on from the trade deadline. Wasn't the way we wanted it to go. It's the way it went. And so the focus now is what you're going to do in October, right? And full disclosure, if this winning streak goes to 8 games, probably not going to be talking about it in this game. I'm recording this during the rain delay on Thursday night. Very poorly timed rain delay because the Braves are flying to New York after this game for a road matchup on Friday. I don't understand why, since the Marlins and the Braves both had to fly, granted to the East Coast, but both had to fly, why this wasn't a day game on Thursday for getaway day. But anyway, Didier Fuentes is going to be a massive part of what the Braves do in the postseason. You heard Alex Anthopoulos. We should have known 2 weeks ago, right, when he went on to MLB Network Radio, and then he did the rounds on the local radio stations as well to prep for the trade deadline, and he talked about mapping out 27 outs. The way that Alex thinks about this pitching staff, what is abundantly clear to me now, is unless you are one of the top starters in October, a Chris Sale. He mentioned Spencer Schwellenbach would have been in that group. Maybe it was on 680. But that's it that we have on our roster that are part of that impact starter ace group. If you're not part of that, he very clearly thinks you're going to be on a short leash, which is probably the way it should be in the postseason. And he even acknowledged in the post-trade deadline press conference that even top starters get pulled early in the postseason. And so the plan is, how do you map out your 27 outs? And the place where I think most everybody gets it wrong when they're talking about Atlanta in October is they say, oh yeah, game 2, it's going to be Yoshinobu Yamamoto versus Grant Holmes, right? Or Bryce Elder. And that framing is technically correct from the lineup card, right? That is what the lineup card will say. But that framing is not the reality of what the game is probably going to look like after the first few innings. Because it is abundantly clear to me, the plan in the postseason is going to be, we have a larger pitching staff, and I say that because you probably only have 2 or 3 guys as starters. And so we're going to just go find the outs however we can. Maybe that means Robert Suarez is pitching the 7th, right? Maybe that means you're in the bullpen in the 4th. I think Didier Fuentes can play a big role in this. This year, 48 1/3 innings across 39 games. He has a 2.42 ERA, 4 wins, 2 saves. He has struck out 61 in those 48 1/3 innings. But if you look at the way they've used him recently, in most of his outings in the last, I'd say probably 2 weeks, going back to late July, he's been out there, and really all but the first one after the All-Star break, he's been out there for extended outings. He's faced extra batters, he's gotten extra outs. Right? First one after the break was 1 inning. He faced 4 batters. They threw him the very next day, which is a thing they've not done a lot. And he faces He goes in a third. He picks up 4 outs, gets a hold. Then he pitches against San Diego in that series. He goes 2 innings. Now, because he gave up 3 hits, he ended up facing 10 batters, but he goes 2 innings. Then they use him in Baltimore, 1 2/3. Then they use him in New York, 2 games on the same day for a doubleheader, which was wild to me, 1 2/3. Then they use him against Washington, 2 innings. Then they use him against Miami, 1 1/3. I don't think this is a deliberate strategy to stretch him out, right? Jake and I did talk about this on the postcast earlier in the week, maybe after that Washington outing. I don't think they are deliberately trying to stretch him out, but I think they're realizing that because he is a converted starter and he's going to go back to being a starter next year, that he can absolutely go farther than just getting your traditional 3 outs. And I think that's going to be useful in the postseason. I think the plan with Didier Fuentes, and probably the best way to look at this, would be to look at him from the perspective of how good this stuff is and how he has the ability to extend his outings. And they'll probably plan on, hey, if we can get 9 outs, great. But if not, we're going to get 6. Maybe they have Didier Fuentes start the game. Maybe he's the first guy out of the pen. Maybe it's up in the air depending on what the first guy does. But when you look at his stuff, and by stuff, capital S, stuff plus. Reminder here for those of you who aren't 100% on top of this all the time like I am, because I'm an amateur pitching nerd. A 100 stuff plus score in the model means the movement of your pitch for that pitch type is right around league average. 1 standard deviation above is 8 points, right? So 108 or 92 is 1 standard deviation below the average. Didier Fuentes has a 115 on his fastball. He has a 116 on his slider. His splitter doesn't grade out that well, but it did last year. It was a 99 last year, and the curveball was a 104 last year. But for the most part, Didier Fuentes has 2 pitches that are at least 1 and close to 2 standard deviations better than the average MLB pitcher. And so what that means is when you have those, you have a third pitch that you can throw, and I'm going to get to that in just a minute because I think Sean Murphy's been a help here, and you can locate them well. You have the pieces to get outs in October. See, one of the things, I am not defending Atlanta's trade deadline. I want to make that clear up front. Not defending the trade deadline. But when you look at the pitchers who were available and the pitchers that ended up moving, some of these guys, obviously Tarek Skubal, great stuff. We went after Jacob deGrom, great stuff. And by stuff, capital S stuff. Jose Soriano of the Los Angeles Angels. Very good stuff earlier in the year. He's fallen off a little bit as the season's progressed, but very good stuff. But most of the guys that moved, for the most part, weren't actually that impressive from a pure your stuff is filthy perspective. And I'm not saying that's the only way to get out. I think it's abundantly clear your Martin Perez's, your Bryce Elders, those guys and the success they've had this season have shown us it's not just about stuff. But in October, stuff plays. That is what matters in October because the margins are so slim. You need to be able to miss bats in October. You don't need to just be, hey, we're going to let the Phillies put 15 balls in play, but we're going to count on most of them being on the ground and us converting the plays. You don't need to let the Brewers spray balls all across the yard and hope that your defense can chase down a fly ball before that runner's on second or third. And a lot of the guys that were moved just don't have good stuff. Casey Mize, for instance, his overall stuff plus score, 89 this year. 11 points below league average. Now, the locations have been really good. 107 stuff plus. He's been nailing the locations. So his overall pitching plus score, which is it's a formula that combines stuff and location, is like right around league average at 99. But how well does below average stuff translate to the postseason? He's had below average stuff this year. When you look at a guy like a Robbie Ray, let's go with the other guy that went to the Padres, 95 stuff plus. And his pitching plus, because the location was actually worse than his stuff, the pitching plus was an 89. Again, a guy, he's been successful in the regular season as far as a 3.08 ERA. I will push back a little bit on that, though, because all of the estimators have him worse, right? 4.43 expected ERA, 4.36 FIP, 4.74 expected FIP. Like, all of the estimators say that Robbie Ray's not a 3 ERA guy, that he's a 4.5 ERA guy. But he doesn't have the stuff for October. If your mindset is the guys on this roster now are outperforming their ERA because they're good at suppressing hard contact, because they're good at getting the ball on the ground, and because they're good at not giving up barrels, which is just a combination of those first two things. I don't know why I said it like that. Then Robbie Ray doesn't move the needle for you either. Casey Mize doesn't necessarily move the needle for you either. Didier Fuentes does. Again, 114 stuff plus, a 103 location, a 115 overall score on pitching. He does move the needle. Just like Chris Sale has fantastic stuff, and like Chris Sale moves the needle. Everything that Chris Sale throws other than that changeup, but is just there to be there, is at least one, if not two standard deviations above, right? The fastball, outside of the changeup, the fastball is his worst pitch at a 113. The slider's a 129, and the sinker's a 127. His overall stuff plus score is a 118. When you combine it with his good locations, the overall pitching score is a 121. Chris Sale is legitimately one of the best starters in baseball. But so few guys who were available on the market this year can match that. And I think at the end of the day, if you're trying to understand Alex's approach to the trade deadline, I think it kind of can be boiled down to, unless he was getting a guy with an amazing stuff, Jacob deGrom's slider is a 111, right? His overall stuff is a 109. His overall pitching score is a 117. Unless you're getting a guy in that area, to them it wasn't worth moving the prospects. I'm not saying that's the correct decision. I'm saying I think I understand their side of this. And so Didier Fuentes is going to be huge. He's going to play a massive role in getting those 27 outs. And because of the schedule of the off days, especially if you can hold on to the second seed and this bye and skip the wild card round, then those days off can really help you. Because in LDS, there's a day off after game 1. There's a day off after game 2 and after game 4. So you can throw your relievers in each game, just about, because they have days off in the middle of it. Provided you don't burn them out now. Shout out to Brent Suter for being here to hopefully help not burn them out now. And when you map out that 27, if you have these off days, Didier Fuentes can be 6 of those, or maybe even 9 of those, in just about every single game. That's not a Chris Sale start. And that is incredibly exciting. A guy who's going to help him, I think, though, Sean Murphy. Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. I was a little frustrated with the Thursday lineup, and I went to social media to complain about it because there's nothing more American than going to social media and issuing a random complaint. Sean Murphy needs to be behind the plate a lot more often than he has. And I think he's made 2 starts so far this week. And there's a couple different reasons for that. The first one is Drake Baldwin at DH and Sean Murphy behind the plate is a better offensive configuration than Drake Baldwin behind the plate and Dominic Smith at DH. I've been beating this drum now on Dominic Smith for far too long. But despite a little mini heater he's had recently, if you go back to May 30th, he's hitting 195 with a 288 slug. He's slugging worse than Nick Allen. I'm being serious. Nick Allen this year in Houston has a 327 slug. I'm going to say it again. Since May 30th, Dominic Smith has been slugging worse than Nick Allen. And he's been surprisingly close to 2025's Nick Allen. There's only 30 points difference in Nick Allen's slug last year and Dom Smith's slug this year since May 30th. And I'm willing to bet you, I'm not going to do this because it's just dumb. I'm willing to bet you if you took off those last couple games that he's played, because he did have a home run in Washington. If you take out that, he probably legitimately is below Nick Allen. So Sean Murphy needs to be on the field for no other reason than he's a better offensive option than Dom Smith is. And I know people are saying he wasn't good last year. Well, that's fine. Dominic Smith's not good now. But also, against lefties last year, yes, Sean Murphy hit 198, or his overall average was 199. He had an 805 OPS against lefties. Even in a bad offensive year, he was really good. He was like I think it's like a 110 WRC plus against lefties last year when he was having a terrible offensive year. And I'm of the opinion, and we've seen this in practice, where when Sean Murphy gets extended playtime, remember, this is going back a long way, and I know some people are going to dismiss this because of that. In 2023, when Travis d'Arnaud had that concussion and missed a month, and Sean Murphy played just about every single game in that stretch. And in that stretch, he hit over 300. I found it. I found the stretch. He hit 306, 438, 706 with 9 home runs and 105 plate appearances. He had an 1144 OPS because he played almost every single day. I'm not saying play him every single day. But from an offensive perspective, we have seen, and in his career, we have seen the best offensive performances from him when he's playing regularly, when he's in the lineup more often than not. And so him and Drake, with Drake at DH, is better than Drake and Dom. Just done. But also, Sean Murphy, and he doesn't get enough credit for this, Sean Murphy is one of the best game callers in baseball. And it's not just me saying that. Other people are saying that. It's the Becky Lynch reference there. But it's not just when he's in the game. Since he's been back this week, Drake Baldwin has been better at managing the pitching staff. Even the games where Sean Murphy's not in it, because Sean Murphy is in those pregame meetings. He's in those preparation meetings. And he's helping figure out the pitching plan to get through the day. Because of that preparation, Drake Baldwin's been better behind the plate from a game calling perspective. But Sean Murphy is elite at it. Go back to the last segment. What's one of the main complaints we have about Didier Fuentes? He throws too many fastballs. He can be overly reliant on the fastball, and he doesn't use his secondaries enough. Well, one of his lower fastball usage games of the year, or I guess of the second half, was when Sean Murphy caught him earlier this series. Yes, he used the fastball a lot. It's a good fastball. You should use it a lot. But he threw both sliders and splitters as well. And we've gone entire outings where literally he's been 100% four-seam fastball. Or we've gone some outings where he threw a couple sliders, and all of the rest were fastballs that didn't touch the splitter. Instead, with Sean Murphy back there, he's using all of them. Still mainlining the fastball, as he should, but mixing in everything else. Getting the strikeouts. Doing what he needs to do. Sean Murphy is legitimately... Part of the reason I'm frustrated about the rotation change on Saturday, or for the weekend, is I wanted Tyler Mahle to pitch on Saturday, and the reason I wanted him to pitch on Saturday is so that he and Sean Murphy could just be glued at the hip until then. Because I want Sean to... The Braves talked about taking Tyler Mahle and working on what he does against righties to try to help keep righties off the board and not allow as many runs and hits and everything as he's doing. There quite literally isn't anybody I trust to do that more than Sean Murphy, right? Hurston Waldrop's breakout last year. His whole breakout happened because Sean Murphy caught him at some rehab games in Gwinnett and said, hey man, I think you should try a sinker. And I think you should do this and this. The whole reason we got that run from Waldrop at the end of the year was because Sean Murphy told him what to do. And I know that there's coaches for these guys. And sometimes you just need to hear it from a peer, right? Or somebody that you see as being closer to a peer. Michael Harris, the adjustment with his hands last year that he did right before the All-Star break. Chipper Jones is the one that got him to make that adjustment with his hand placement. Tim Hires was telling him to do that in spring training. But it didn't really stick until Chipper came in and reinforced what Tim Hires was saying. I'm sure there's a player development person in the organization somewhere that was telling Hurston Waldrop, hey man, you should throw a sinker. But until it came from a catcher that everybody knows and respects, it didn't stick. That's why I want Sean Murphy behind the plate 4 days a week. He should be behind the plate automatically for any lefty. Anytime you're facing a lefty pitcher, Drake's the DH, Sean's behind the plate. But other than that, I think it should be probably 2 starts for Sean and then maybe 1 for Drake behind the plate. Sean should probably start 5 games a week catching and let Drake start 2 with Drake getting DH days. And then when Drake is the DH, if Sean's hot, let him DH. If Sean's not hot, Ronald Acuna Jr. can DH or something else. But you got to get Sean Murphy in there. And honestly, this would have been a lot easier had they kept Joey Bart and got rid of Dom Smith instead. Keep Joey Bart, that way you had a third catcher. You don't have one of those weird situations where you have to move your DH to catcher, so now you don't have a DH and a pitcher has to hit. Although, the last time a pitcher hit for us, it worked out pretty well. Victor Medeiros did a pretty decent job the last time he had to go out there and hit for us. But listen, part of the reason that Alex made the trade for Sean Murphy was because William Contreras was not a good defender and was not doing the work to try and be a good defender. And because of it, there were Braves pitchers that did not want to throw to him. And I don't think we ever got that confirmed who it was. But if you go back and you look at the game logs, I'm pretty sure Max Fried didn't throw to William Contreras once that entire season before the trade went down. I'm pretty sure it was just Max Fried just never threw to William Contreras. Ever. So I'm pretty sure Max was the one who's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not throwing to him. And to William Contreras' credit, when he first got to Milwaukee, the defense showed up, right? He had a little bit of time to acclimate to them, and then the defense started getting better. And I think he had one season where he was actually a really good defender behind the plate because it was an effort thing. Yes, they have catcher devil magic. They make every catcher's defense better. But there was like one season where he appeared to be legitimately putting in the effort to get better. 2023, first season after the trade, he was plus 10 run value in 900 innings behind the plate. The year before in Atlanta, he was minus 9 run value in 500 innings. So he went 19 points the other direction in run value with less than double the playing time because of effort. And he's since fallen back off. He's having a bad defensive year in 26. But The reason Atlanta went and got Sean Murphy was, one, the history of health, which we could all laugh about that now, but two, how good he was behind the plate. How reliable. He's the healthy version of Sean Murphy, has consistently been one of the best blockers, one of the best game callers, one of the stronger arms behind the plate at throwing out base runners, controlling the running game. He doesn't get the credit because a lot of Braves fans are mad about his offense. But even last year, when he hit 199 with an OPS barely over 7, 94th percentile in blocks above average, 89th percentile in caught stealing above average, 71st percentile in framing. Those are all accumulation stats. The more you play, the more you get them. He got 600 innings behind the plate, and he was still one of the best in all of baseball at blocking, at caught stealing, and at framing. He is legitimately one of, if not the best defensive catchers in baseball, and we need to use him that way. So I'm hoping that the reason he did not catch on Thursday night was because he caught on Wednesday, and Atlanta was worried. They said, we know we're going to need him for Friday because we're facing a lefty in Max Fried, and we don't want to ask him to do 3 consecutive days so soon off the injured list. That needs to be the only reason. He didn't catch on Thursday night. He needs to catch tonight. He needs to catch on Saturday. If you want to give him an off day, give him Sunday off. But the Braves legitimately have a weapon back there. Use him. And hopefully they use him against the Yankees. Let's break down that series, the pitching matchups, and what to expect from the Bronx Bombers. We'll do that next, right here on Braves Today. The Atlanta Braves are catching the Yankees at a good time right now, right? Since the All-Star break, the Yankees are one off the league leading games played with 19. Atlanta also has 19. And the Yankees are tied for 27th in runs scored with 60. So you're catching them at the right time. And when you break it down individually, the biggest reason here is they don't have Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is still on the injured list. We're not going to see him in this series. He was just cleared to do light work. So you're not going to face him. And Cody Bellinger, also on the injured list. And so right now, what you are dealing with when you face the Yankees, and I'm going to say this as politely as I can, it is Luis Garcia Jr., new trade acquisition, and the boys. Anthony Volpe got optioned down to AAA when they promoted George Lombard Jr., yes, the son of the Braves draft pick and the Tigers bench coach who I wanted to be our manager. They promoted him. He's played in, as of time of recording, he's played in 2 games. Does have a home run. That was cool. Very first MLB hit was a home run. We'd love to see that. But so many of since the All-Star break, so many of these guys are just not hitting. Jose Caballero, 217. Ben Rice, who has been legitimately one of the best hitters in baseball since the All-Star break. He's hitting 171 with a 314 slug. He's running a 31% strikeout rate. Jazz Chisholm's hitting 186. It's a 424 slug, right? He's popped 4 home runs. But he's also struck out 40% of the time. And it's a very good time to catch the Yankees offensively. They're integrating some new pieces. They traded for Heliot Ramos from the Giants. They traded for Luis Garcia Jr. from the Nationals. So they're integrating both of those guys. And it's still a work in progress. It looks like there's been a little bit of defensive issues with Ramos in left, just trying to acclimate to that ballpark, acclimate to a different center fielder next to him. He's in left, Spencer Jones is in right. Spencer Jones has amazing power, but also a ton of strikeouts. He's a young guy. Trent Grisham in center is not actually that great of a center fielder anymore. He's really not. And you're catching them offensively at a good time. What you're not doing is catching the pitching staff at a convenient time. I would go on a limb, and I think the whole reason the Yankees are still getting some of the best odds in the American League to win the World Series is the combination of the fact that, one, they are theoretically going to get Aaron Judge back eventually. Bellinger shouldn't be out the whole season. Judge shouldn't be out the whole season. They'll have those guys back, and all they have to do is get in the postseason. But they've got those guys, and then this rotation. And you get the absolute hardest guys in the rotation, right? We're going to see Max Fried on Friday night. We are going to see Gerrit Cole on Saturday. We are going to see Cam Schlittler on Sunday. It is absolutely the worst possible scenario. You would much rather get a Ryan Weathers or a Will Warren than you would get any one of those three guys. And you've got all three. This could be a bunch of low-scoring games. And unlike a lot of the previous Yankees teams, this bullpen has not been bad either. As of right now, David Bednar's pitched 3 of the last 6 days, converted saves in all 3. They're using Fernando Cruz as their setup righty, Brent Hedrick as their setup lefty. Don't know a lot about those guys, but they're working out, right? Paul Blackburn has been dropped down to a middle relief spot. He's got 2 holds in the last week. Tim Hill is a pretty decent lefty back there, can do a lot of good stuff like get ground balls and things like that. Ryan Yarborough, their long man, another left. They have 3 lefties in the pen. They've got 2 lefties in the rotation. You'll only catch one with Fried. You're not catching Weathers, but it's not a great time to catch Yankees pitching. And these guys, for the most part, have all been really good. Max Fried's ERA, 3.12 in 13 starts. Gerrit Cole's ERA, 3.42 in 13 starts. Both those guys missed time. Cole he was coming back from surgery. Fried missed time in season with a bone bruise in his elbow, which just sounds awful. But Cam Schlittler, 26 starts. He's made 24 starts. He's posted every 5th or 6th day. And he is just absolutely filthy. He is throwing. Cam Schlittler is the platonic ideal of a pronator that can't spin the ball well, right? 4-seam, cutter, sinker, all in the high 90s. He's got a curve and a slider. They together come out to 10% usage. It's just power. It's just heater after heater at you. 90% of the pitches you are going to see are going to be fastballs. He doesn't even throw an off-speed pitch. And really, a guy who doesn't spin the ball that should probably look at adding a splitter or something. But what he's doing is working, so don't change anything. 2.26 ERA. That's a little better. The estimators say it should be a 2.95. 2.95 is still pretty good. So not an easy weekend offensively. This, to me, this is going to be the real test of the Atlanta Braves offense. Is this group of hitters you have now? You've added Lane Thomas. You've brought Sean Murphy back. Ronald Acuna Jr., you're trying to get him going. Is this group of hitters good enough to score against postseason caliber pitching? Because I would put Fried, Schlittler, and Cole up with any other group of 3 pitchers you're going to see, right? You put them up against Philly. Okay. Sanchez and Wheeler, and Luzardo, these guys are just as good. You put them up against Philly, I guess that'd be Skubal, Yamamoto, and I don't even know who their third best one is. Ohtani, if he's pitching by then, Glasnow, I don't know. But the point is, these guys, just as good. So one, sucks that we don't have this caliber of a 3 right now because of injuries, but also, you're going to find out a lot about your offense this weekend. Our offense. I don't know why I said your offense. Our offense. We're going to find out when the margins get slimmer in the postseason. You're in a hostile environment on the road. Is this the group of hitters that can find a way to get the runs across? Get the balls in play, get the runs across, and get them in. We'll find out. I am very excited about the series. I think this is going to be, it is, for those of you who just like me watch baseball all the time whenever it's on, this is the best series of the weekend. There's not anything else that matches up with the caliber of this. Game 1, 7:05 on Friday. Game 2 is 3:05 on Saturday. And then Sunday's your typical 1:35 getaway day. A little bit of an earlier game on Saturday. You have a chance to get a game in and still go have dinner or whatever. But it's going to be a fantastic matchup. I'm very excited for this weekend. And again, I just want to know more about this Braves team. Is this offense actually good enough to take you to the promised land or not? We may get a much better idea of that this weekend. That'll do it for Braves Today for Friday the 7th. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll be back later today with the scouting report, breaking down what to expect from old friend Max Fried. He's not the same pitcher now that he was when he was in Atlanta. So just because we watched him win us a World Series in that Game 6, he's not the same guy. So I'll break all of that down on the scouting report later today. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.